5:32 Thursday evening. Thank you all for coming. This is a staff meeting regarding our budget. Why are we doing it this way? Well, one of the things that needs to get out there is the fact that the administration has been doing a lot over the past few years in regards to our budget. And we will continue to do whatever we can as far as keeping our budget in line. I believe it's 9 years in a row now we've come in under budget. Why is it going to be different this year than any other year? It's going to be different. And to start us off with why it's going to be different, I'm going to hand the mic to Scott Slaughter, our finance director, and he can give us a little rundown of why this year will be different than other years.
Thank you, Mayor. Our income tax is going to drop from 2.25% to 2%, which is a $1.3 million projected decrease in revenues, and over 72 or 74% of our general fund revenue comes from income tax. So we have a $10 million budget. General fund approximately, and a large part of our safety forces and a lot of the city administration and streets are funded straight from the general fund. So there's going to have to be some concessions. We have a good healthy carryover at this point, but if there's not going to be any additional revenue coming in the next couple of years, we have to again tighten our belts to get through this.
Okay, thank you. So there's the playing field. Cleveland Business Magazine, Cranes, talks about Kasich right on the front page, and the fact that he's making some proposals for tax cuts. But it also notes in here that this present administration is spending more on state government than the predecessor did. When you look at the total body work of Governor Kasich, according to this, it looks like he's shifting the burden elsewhere. Well, guess where it's getting shifted? Right in our lap. And the reason I say that is because of the loss of municipal funding. Years ago, there was a deal cut between the states and the municipalities during the Depression, and the deal was this: if you let us come to your municipality and charge you sales tax, we will give you a portion of that sales tax back. You might never, ever have to tax your people. As the years have gone by, they've cut more and more and more of our share of that tax. The problem was that was all done with the handshake. It wasn't in writing anywhere, it was just an agreement. So that leaves us ripe to have that income taken away from us. For Macedonia, it's a big deal. I think it's about $800,000.
For local government, we've been cut at least $250,000 over the last each year.
So we've been cut to, right now, we're at the total of the years that we've been cut about $600,000 to $800,000, correct? Now, this money is being held back at the state level. If you can imagine that the percentage of our budget that now will not be there by losing the city income tax, by losing the municipal funding, you're looking at a total that could be $2 million. The mayor has to come up with the budget every year and present it to council. And then it's up to council to decide what we're going to spend. Council holds the purse string. This year, we're under a new form of government. The government we have this year is different. We have 5 council people now. It was decided by referendum by our citizens, I think about 4 or 5 years ago. We had to wait for council terms to be up so that we would have all new people in office And then it went to now we have 5 council people instead of 6. In the old form of government, the mayor broke the tie. In this form of government, that's no longer the case, because now you have an uneven number. The only problem is that was done with the singular purpose to separate legislating and government. So in other words, I have no say in legislation as far as to break a tie, and council needs to give the administration the ability to do what it needs to do. And this meeting tonight is us just talking about the things that we need to do, but might not be able to do if we approach the budget at the present path that has been chosen. The present path that has been chosen is built around leaving an excess at the end of the year of 2.5 million, which would leave us in good shape for the years to come. However, in order to achieve that carryover of 2.5 million, we have to make a lot of cuts. Some of these cuts are necessary, but just for a little bit of history, 2009 was a devastating year for the city of Macedonia. In 2009, we cut our operating budget to the point we cut it by 10% right across the top. That 10% had us laying off people. It had us cutting costs everywhere we could. My office, for instance, has still not reached back to the level it was in 2008. I still do not have a full-time HR person. HR is human resources, very important in today's world when you start dealing with people's lives, hospitalization, all those problems that can develop. Very important position. We're lucky. We tried to get an HR person part-time for a long time, and then we were blessed because now we have Betsy and she's part-time. But that's a hard thing to find, somebody that's just willing to do it part-time with the experience that Betsy had. I also lost receptionists. Well, that's no big deal. Not really, because that's the face of your city when you come into City Hall. The receptionists now have been replaced by our court clerks. So basically, our court clerks have 2 jobs. They're the receptionists and they're the court clerks. So if you take that and then you add on top of it more cuts this year, when do we stop cutting and when do we start looking at reality? One of the most important things to allow the administration to administrate is having control of the bottom line and line item. We cannot, should not, will not go back to council for every single line item that has to have something moved. In other words, you might have 20 line items in your budget. Number 1 has $1,000 in it, number 2 has $100 in it. Under number 2, all of a sudden you have to spend $200. You would have to go back to council to get that other $100. So, the important thing to us is keeping the bottom line of each department in budget or under budget. How are we doing? Well, for instance, my office last year came in almost 8% under budget, and my old faithful car gave out, and I had to get another car to replace it, and we could still do that and come in under budget for the bottom line item. As far as the mayor's recommendations, how we go about preparing for the future, I would like to see us put $500,000 more in our rainy day fund this year. I would like to see us spend $40,000 to have a financial audit performed by the state auditors. A financial audit is different than any other audit we've ever had. A financial audit actually looks and compares each one of our departments, what they're spending, how they're doing it with other municipalities that are the same size, same makeup. So I'm all in favor of doing a financial audit so that we can strategize how we're gonna move forward with less money. So my most important part is the fact that we would like to control line items within our budget without having to go to council for each and every one. And I would like to see money put in the rainy day fund and have a financial audit done so we know where we're going in the years to come. I'm going to go now to our rec center first. Angela, talk about your budget.
Thank you, Mayor. The rec center budget stands out uniquely on its own as we are funded differently from the rest of the departments. We're funded based on income tax and revenues from programs and memberships as opposed to being funded out of the general fund. So when prioritizing capital items and appropriations out of the general fund, that does not affect the rec center. So we are, like I said, a little bit different in that sense. I do have a small portion of the parks budget for programming, and I just have very few items in that for programming, which are all revenue generating line items. And those I have not seen have been greatly affected. Our capital projects are appropriated for out of the rec center fund, so I don't have any concerns with those dollar amounts. The only concern I have, as the mayor had mentioned, would be doing a line item budget. You know, we have a bottom line number for the year, and we have always had the ability to transfer within our own line items, staying under that number, that bottom number. To have to go to get every single transfer approved, whether it's $100 or $1,000 that you already have in your budget, you just need it transferred into a different line item. That's going to, I think, severely impact the operations of the city. I know for my department, you know, that could potentially impact us. I know Scott won't be cutting checks if we don't have that money in there, and if we have to wait every 2 weeks for council meetings to have, you know, those monies approved, or if they're on recess for summer or holidays, it could be longer than 2 weeks. It could be up to possibly 3 to 4 weeks at a time. We would basically come to a standstill as far as operations. So if we can't pay for pool chemical deliveries because we need to transfer into that line item to purchase that, then obviously we would have to shut the pool down. And I don't want to see that happen. I don't want to be hit with a bunch of citations the following year from the state auditor if we proceed with operations, if this is the method that is chosen to go forward. So those are my concerns. I don't think, I mean, I've been here 8 years, we've never had a problem transferring our own dollars within our own fund. Anything in excess of what's appropriated has to go in front of council. We can't go over what's appropriated and passed by council, but it would just be transferring from our own line items to our other own line items within the same accounts, the same funds. So that's my concern. And I think the rest of you are out of the general fund and have greater concerns, so I won't monopolize time.
Thank you, Angela. John?
All right. Reference, I have two budgets, police budget and the dispatch budget. Looking at my budget and taking into consideration that we have to be extremely careful in what we spend this year, there were several areas that I thought I could use more in my line items. The first one was part-time salaries for the police department. I was hoping to get an additional $5,500. Right now, we average 66 hours in a week. I believe there's 186 hours in a week, and we average 66 hours a week with jailers. I was hoping to increase that by 8 hours, and we only have 2 jailers. Both are part-time policemen in other jurisdictions, and they're looking to move away from this position and become police officers full-time, and I only have the 2, and when one leaves, I'd like to have another person trained to fill in those positions. So it would be difficult if one of those part-timers left. The next line item was police uniforms. I was hoping to go to $31,000 from $28,500. We have additional manpower this year. Fortunately, this year Scott was able to get us back to our full-time ranks where we were in 2008. We're finally back up there now, and I anticipate that we'll need a little more money in that budget to cover for the additional manpower. Training and education, I was hoping to go to 10,000 because we have a lot of new guys on the department. You guys need more training than more seasoned veterans. I had 6,200 budgeted, draft 1 I think we're referring to. So I was hoping to go to about $10,000 there to train some of the newer guys. And the fuel, I have 72,000 budgeted for the fuel. I was hoping to go to 80 because of the new manpower. We're going to use more fuel, obviously. And the other one I had in police was the discretionary purchases. I have $500, and I was hoping to go to 1,000 to cover additional costs because this budget is extremely lean compared to past budgets. There's really not a whole lot extra in there to fall back on. And as you said, if they go to the line item, I can't transfer money from one line item to the next without council approval. And as you said before, council meets once in July, once in August, once in November, once in December, and we're a 24/7 operation. We need, if a radio breaks, if the car goes down, or something like that happens, we need fixed right away. So that's extremely important. So that's what I have on the police side. Dispatch side, we were hoping to get that 6th full-time dispatcher. We've been at 6 since dating back as far as I could check as 1998. We've had 6 full-time dispatchers. I'm at 5 right now, and I'm hoping to get that 6th full-time dispatcher. Realistically, last year in the budget, we were hoping to get that 7th full-time dispatcher. As comparison-wise, when we look at some of the other cities, and I don't want to take up too much time, but if you compare us to Twinsburg, in our arrest status and ticket status, we exceed what Twinsburg does. So we are busier than Twinsburg, even though they have more population. They have, last year they had 145,000 radio calls. We had 207,000, so we had significantly more radio traffic than they did. They had 62,000 phone calls, we had 63,000 phone calls, and that doesn't include Boston Heights. Yet, Twinsburg has 9 full-time dispatchers and 2 part-timers. I have 5 full-timers and 2 part-timers, so I think we possibly have something worked out where I get the 6th full-time dispatcher this year. And I was really hoping to get that 7th. I think that's probably out of reach right now. The council really needs to look at the books later in the year and maybe give me that 7th, hopefully. As with dispatch, the concerns I had, contracted services from 15,000 to 16,000. I have so many copies here. I can't see the note when I was requesting that. Sonia and I looked at that. Training and education, again, we have some newer dispatchers in there. I think we have 2 ladies that have less than 5 years experience in there. Before it'd be hard to do it. I want to go from 1,000 to 3,000 to get some additional training. It's dispatch is the basis for police and fire safety forces. And small tools and equipment go to from $400 to $1,000. And
John, your jailers are necessary because jails make us money.
Jails make us money. We take in jail prisoners from 6 or 7 other jurisdictions. It basically pays for the jailers and all the fees associated with the jail. The cities rely on us to house prisoners. If we don't have our jail, people will just return loose. You commit theft, return loose. DUI, DUS, all various crimes, assault. There's no place to put them behind our jail. So it's extremely important. When you talk to some of the other departments who don't have a jail, the people who act out there know it and get away with a little more. Twinsburg is paying a lot of money to house their prisoners, and so our jail doesn't cost nearly what they're paying. So we have no prisoners on there, so the jail is extremely important.
So it kind of offsets the cost.
Absolutely. It's just one more thing that we do for the residents to save them money. We're bringing other cities' prisoners here to pay for our costs and make a little bit of money. The past couple of years, I think we brought in $127,000. So paid for all our expenses and then some additional money for the city. So.
All right, thank you. Jim?
I guess from the service department, I feel that this department's probably been neglected the most since 2006, almost 8 years. One of the biggest things that I was trying to get is for employees. We're down 6 full-timers since 2006. I was looking to get them replaced with at least 4. And this would help us to be able to do more projects, work on our roads, do more coal patching and so on. So it's very important for us that we have to start looking at rebuilding our department. Because at this point, like I said, we're down 6 employees. I'd like to replace them with 4. That was my goal. And I'm hoping that maybe they'll still look into that. Also, equipment. The service department's equipment is really in despair. I asked for 3 more salt trucks. My answer back was none. I'm in a situation where,
It was 2, Jim.
yeah, it was 2, but the one that I just got back now is 0
No, there's 2 in there.
for next year, 2015.
No, you'll get them this year delivered, and the payments will start next year.
Well, that was never explained to me that way, so I didn't know that. But if we are getting 2 salt trucks, that would help. It would also help to know what they're doing. Also, besides our equipment, it's not just the salt trucks, but it's our pickup trucks. Everything is outdated. Everything is, in the 10 to 12-year-old range. So we need to start really looking into our department. And also, as you know, for here, in this building, the heat pumps. I requested to get 7 of the 25 heat pumps repaired. They are funding. They gave me $30,000 to do half of them. I actually only 2 if I did the 2 big ones. But I feel if they can at least give me another $3,000 on that, give me $33,000, I'll be able to get 4 heat pumps done. Okay? Because we have to start maintaining our building. That's one thing that I've noticed over the years. There's lack of maintenance. And we really have to start looking at maintaining not only our buildings, but all our public lands, our parks. It seems that that's been overlooked for quite a while. I've always brought that up, even as a foreman, that we need to start investing into what the service provides. I was also hoping that I could get my trucks updated with the radios. We can't communicate, and I think that's a safety hazard. That's something that, and as an example, one of our trucks went down. We had a problem with it. Happened to be at midnight on Cessna. The driver doesn't have a cell phone. He couldn't communicate with his radio. Luckily, he saw a home with the lights still on. So he went to the home at midnight, knocked on the door, asked if he could use the phone to call to get help. So it's very important that I get that also repaired. That was a $13,000 item. We need to have what we call a repeater put on the tower so that we can contact everybody north and south, all over, into the neighborhoods. I also asked to get some of our plows refurbished, because they're old. All of them are old, they're in the 12 to 14-year-old, some of them are even older. But the way we outfit our trucks, we're able to use them. But if I refurbish them, $1,000 each, 10 of them, that's $10,000. To buy one brand new 8-foot plow would be $10,000. So, you know, it just makes efficiency and sense to me to best fix them. We have these all available to us, and we do it. I also asked for software for our mechanics. We have new equipment. Some of the new trucks that we do have, and the new ones, if we are going to get them, you need the software to fix them. Same with our police cars. And right now, I believe there's a major problem on, one or two of the cars? Starting on one, and they'll probably have recalls and everything else. And we need that software, and also a scan tool, so that our mechanics will be able to work on our newer equipment, because right now they can't. And you being once a mechanic, you know what I'm talking about. If they hook up into the computer, they have no way to check it. We have to send everything out. If you have to send it out, your cost will be triple. So that's another thing that I would like to see, if we can get that possibly. And the heat pumps are important, maintaining the building, getting the funding for that. Now that I know that we're getting 2 trucks, but like I said, I wasn't aware that that was happening, because I saw 2015. But if that's a good thing, if I can order it, because that's very important. Because one more winter like this, we'd really be in trouble, because I average 2 to 3 trucks going down every snow night. So,
What's the condition of our roads?
our roads, I was getting that too, is poor. Mike and Nick and I and Jackie, we rode every single street we went down. And they're in bad condition. And they'll be worse when we see in April and May, once spring comes in, you'll see what really happened. This winter has been really bad. And it's not just Macedonia, it's all over. The freeze thaw, the ground is frozen deeper, and the roads are cracking everywhere. In fact, they're giving me some money to do some crack sealing, and I have to actually go do the roads that we already repaired, like Berkshire, Deepwood, Shepherd Hills. They're all cracked. So we have to go take care of those, because they're our newest roads. So we'll do that. We'll do South Freeway again, North Freeway, and those are all the good roads. All the other ones that are in really poor shape, I mean, it doesn't make sense to crack seal. It just doesn't work. They need repair. We tried to get a couple roads repaired that were on top of the list, Air Lane and we're at Westwood in Parkland. And it wasn't put on our budget to do, but they're in desperate need. People on Westwood have been waiting 9 years. People on Air Lane have been waiting longer. The roads just needs to be completely redone. And then I have 3 projects that I requested more money into my storm water, and that's to finish phase 3 of North Bedford. And then to finish Gloria and Eileen, which is a 20-year-old project. Those people have been getting flooded, from the new development, the way it was designed. And we have a cure for Black Hawk and Iroquois to make it where they're not always flooded. But I need the funds to do that. And my feeling is this, I'm telling you what I need to do these 3 projects and to do some of this other road work. Just put the money in a line item for me, because you know how I like to work. Do a project, get it done, go to the next project. Get it done, go to the next project. The way they're talking, if they do this line item, and I have to move money, if I have to wait weeks to get my money to do the next project, it doesn't help us, because we're based on weather. And you want to do these road projects and do all these little things that we want to get done. I have a window. I have a window to get it done. So it's very important that they just give me the funding that I need to do these roads, and also the striping. I have no funds that I have seen in the new appropriations for striping. And the last time we did it was 2012, August of 2012, and that was the cost of $43,000. And you really should do yours, you should be doing them every couple of years, even if you do half the city and then the next year do the other half, and then keep this going. These are things that we have to do. And then also that's going to be coming up that I don't even have the full figures yet, is that EPA phase 2, we have to, there's certain things that we have to do, and in fact, Nick's working on that right now. And,
By law.
by law, yes. The same thing with the striping. I mean, I've got complaints from residents, they don't know the turning lane, even from Route 8 going eastbound on the 82. They say cars cut in front of each other because they don't know where, that it's a double turn. They know it's a double turning lane, but they don't know exactly where. So these are things that we have to do. They just can't, and if the money's there, then we can just do them. You don't have to wait for council to approve it or anything like that. And there's a few other things in my budget, and I don't want to drag this on, that we have to add some more money in for wages for, like, my associate, the part-timer. When she was brought in, she was at a higher rate than the girl before her. So we have to make, appropriations for that, make sure the money's in there. And that's basically it, man. We have a lot of work to do, and we need the funding to do it. I mean, and this is the time, and the roads aren't gonna get any better. They have to be repaired.
Well, Jim, I'm very proud of the fact that you do a lot of stuff in-house. That's key, and you need men to do it. Thank you. Mike?
Thanks, Mayor. What I'm looking at first is my operating. The building department works a little bit differently because we get a lot of revenue based on permits and engineering activity. This year, we're looking at 2 nursing homes, an assisted living center, and an 80-unit apartment complex. Expecting our revenues to go up and pretty much be a wash. So if our revenues are going up, our expenditures go up. So we're looking at adding $50,000 to be split between architectural and engineering and contracted services. And I'm also, as I was looking into the salaries and wages, our overtime for the girls up front has been cut. We spent $3,200 last year. It was cut down to $1,000. That's going to be difficult, as you know, Mayor, because we get the bulk of the records requests. And it doesn't look like we'll be getting a scanner anytime soon, or another part-time employee, so it's probably going to be critical to add that back to $3,500 to get that. They're going to be doing records requests, no doubt.
Explain those records requests.
Some of them are, we get a ton of them. It's usually at least 2 per day, and it could be anywhere from scanning in 100 pages of blueprints to 50 pages of details. So it's a wide variety. Some of it we have to sub out, but it does take time for the girls to pull them. We have records dating back to the original build dates of all the buildings, and then architects, everybody.
Who makes these requests?
It's the general public. Anybody can make these requests.
Contractors?
Contractors, architects, engineers,
Projects?
Residents, yes. So it is quite busy, so I'm asking for a little bit more, at least in overtime, because during the day, as we're gonna get busy with these, we only have a staff of 4. We have 17 contracted employees. Those contract costs are gonna go up this year, but it should be a wash with the revenues coming in. That is the operating portion of it. The next portion is gonna be roads, and I'm not gonna go too much into it because Nick is here and he can explain it further. But I am giving not only a 2014 capital request for stormwater, roadway, and miscellaneous projects, but a 5-year plan. And Mayor, as you know, we've had some of the bigger projects, the Highland Road project, the 82 project, 82 phase 3, we've got 82 phase 1 going. Now we have the 271 ramp. So we have done capital, but it's all been leveraged money. As you know, we've worked hard at getting that leveraged money. We have not done the residential streets that much, because every year we come and it gets cut. And as you've been mayor, you know this. We come in and we have this whole thing of roads that want to be done, and then somehow it all disappears. We're getting to the point where it can't disappear anymore. The people have waited a long time. To name a few that we have at the top of the list, and we rated 20 of them as being in poor condition. But at the top, we got Airlane, Westwood, Blueberry, Barkdale, Brookdale, Bonnie, Bruce, Bradford, Meadow Lawn, Roseland, Driftwood, Waters. As far as, we are applying for more funding. I'll let Nick go into that. Some of the stormwater projects, Eileen drainage improvement, and Our Lady of Guadalupe got to be at the top of the list. We've had complaints year after year after year about the stormwater flooding, and we're not doing anything about it. If we can't get the funding, which I know it's going to be tight, and we need money, we might have to look into assessments. I talked to you about that before. It might be our only option. And then I'll leave this up to Nick.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor. Mike, to expand a little bit upon what Jim has mentioned and what Mike's elaborated on, and we prepared this 2014 budget capital request for roads, storm, sanitary, and whatnot, and we also did expand upon a 5-year plan. For local roadway projects, like Mike was mentioning here, residential streets, we had targeted, when we sat down and talked about these, we targeted roughly $500,000 a year to address local roads. What Jim had mentioned, which is key here, is the longer the roads are left untouched, and neglected, your options diminish. So, with that said, the city's got roughly 70 centerline miles of pavement. To put this in perspective, if you wanted to be on a 20-year to a 25-year program to handle that inventory, you need to be spending upwards of $1.5 million just to be on a 20 to 25-year cycle. So, with that in mind, the 500,000 might look like it's pretty aggressive, but in my opinion, it's not that aggressive at all. Like I said, a lot of times people come up and ask, well, why don't we try this option? Why don't we try that? When the road's failing, your options are limited. You can't crack seal and chip and seal something with base failures. Unless you want to come back and do that, which we wouldn't recommend. So, and that pretty much addresses what we're looking at for the local roads. At $500,000 a year, these are the 3 streets that we have requested for 2014 are some of the worst first type of streets. $500,000 could go a lot further. You can do a lot more streets. You just have to refocus your strategy. Maybe you don't do the worst first. Maybe do streets that are more likely candidates of a typical 3-inch mill and fill. You could do a lot of streets, with that approach to $500,000. So I just bring that up here. People see the list of streets and holy smokes, they're asking for $500,000 and only have 3 streets on there. I just wanted to explain that. We also have a category for your major roadway projects, which are the projects that Mike had mentioned, which are your bigger capital improvements, where we collect money with the state. The 271 North plant relocation is on a fast track pace. We've got, and that's going to be part of the 271 widening project that's coming in the next 2 years. 82 Phase 3 has been submitted. The Stage 3 submittal's gone into ODOT. That project's on schedule. Construction's going to start and finish in 2015. And 82 Phase 1, which is the resurfacing on the west end of town, is also scheduled for construction in 2015, and the city has skin in that there as well. It's reflected in our column for 2014 for some administrative costs, and then in our 5-year outlook, it does show up, the local portion of the construction costs in that year. We've got a category for our major roadway, future funding application projects that are on our wish list. Whether it's the citywide signal upgrade, which we would apply for congestion mitigation and air quality funding. That's a couple years down the road. But you can see the sticker price on that project pretty big. Got some intersection improvements on the radar, Highland and Valley View, and Valley View Road resurfacing. After this, 82 corridor is done, Valley View Road's on the top of the list, so we're seeking alternative funding for those projects. And we did apply for AMAX funding on those. They didn't make the top 20 of the project threshold. Sometimes the priorities change. I don't know that we're close enough that we'll be bumped into the funding category in that one, so we'll have to continue working with AMAX, trying to get those projects prioritized a little bit higher and look for other funding sources for those. Our stormwater category, as Jim had mentioned, there's Iowa EPA Phase 2. Your EPA Phase 2 permit expired. The current permit expired in January this year. EPA is in the process of adopting the new permit, which is anticipated to be the end of March, sometime in April, so there's going to be more stringent requirements coming up with that. We do have money requested in the budget for the Phase 2 mapping, which was a mandated requirement with the previous permit, and we are making a lot of progress on fulfilling that obligation. It's not completed yet. We've made a lot of progress even in what we've been working on for 5 months.
Dick, are there fines,
Yes.
and like, what amount?
You know what, Mayor, to be honest, I've never been involved with a city that's been named with a penalty, so off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you what those fines would be, but I can report back to you.
Well, from what I've heard, they fine you per day that you don't comply. All right, while we're talking about roads, what did you have, Mike, for how much road work we've done?
As far as capital projects.
Capital big projects.
So we've been, Route 82, Phase 1 and Phase 2, we have Highland Road, we have the I-271 ramp, we have coming the 271 widening, we've had 271 interchange over at Highland Road, the Highland Road intersection, Route 8 upgrade. We've had a lot of capital projects. All of them have either been funded or money leveraged. We have 82 Phase 3 coming up, but once again, we still need to go into the residential areas and who's the resident. Some of these roads are really bad. I know in the medium income of 2010, I think it was like 84,000 here is the average, which is pretty comparable to like Rexville. With that kind of money in the cars they're buying, I'm sure they're going to be upset if the roads aren't.
Very good, thank you. Anything else, Nick?
We could have, stormwater, we were asking for the things that are mandatory, like the Phase 2 compliance and the stormwater mapping. I don't want to forget, we do have 2 projects on here. Our top priority in the stormwater category is the island rock drainage improvement. And that improvement's entirely within the right of way. It's been designed since 2009. We'd like to see that one finally completed. And we had a road basin, detention basin, the estimate on that was $230,000, probably based on preliminary engineering that was conducted a couple years back at the request of the council. Years ago, so the numbers been pretty refined. I think previously in the stormwater study that the city had, this site was a high priority location, and it was with less information, it was estimated to be closer to $600,000. But council did authorize us to do some preliminary surveying and design, and we did refine that down to $230. As far as cost benefit goes, it's high on our priority list because of the price of the project provides a lot of benefit to the downstream property owners. Other than that, we had a sanitary sewer project on our radar, which was on Shepherd Road. That's one of the last areas in town where we've got septic systems that discharge into roadside ditches. There's been problems there, so we've been looking into the possibility of putting sanitary gravels on South Shepherd Road.
Thank you. Tom?
Thank you, Mayor. I have to note for the members of council and the members of the public that this is so unusual, and this is not very much like the staff meetings that we have. First of all, I think there's a fight to see who gets to sit next to the mayor during the staff meeting. Then people are just generally a lot perkier. There's more in the reality, job reality going on. And I figured it out that we don't have any donuts tonight. That's the biggest difference. I've also got to say that I'm not an expert with regards to budgets. I've always relied on finance, I've relied on mayors that we've worked for, worked with, and members of council. And it amazes me every year that the expertise that's displayed by the administration, through the mayor, and through the finance department and through the department heads and the members of council. And a lot of this work is being done off the books, off of hours. And I think on behalf of all the residents, all the workers here, all the employees, we've got to thank all of you for this. With regards to the law department, things are going to change in the year 2014. And that's because of the fact that we're currently in litigation, and that litigation is going to not become fast-tracked necessarily. Everything moves slow within the courts. But now we're getting to that meaty portion where in lieu of a lot of paperwork, a lot of appearances are going to be necessary. Why is the law department involved in that litigation, even though we have insurance defense counsel? There are numerous claims that have been made alleged in that complaint that are not covered by insurance. And as a result of that, and as a result of other issues with regards to officials and whether or not they're being sued in their personal or official capacity, the law department needs to be involved because insurance will not cover those personal situations. Also, that lawsuit is growing because more people are being added, even as we speak, to that particular lawsuit. The other item that's coming up this year, I think, is the Route 82 widening, also the restructuring and the removing of the ramp. We're going to be involved implicitly and explicitly with the engineer and the building with regards to the acquisition of services that are being provided, and that will increase the amount of work that the law department is involved in. What about the regular amount of work? There's nothing regular with the amount of work anymore, because I think of the threat of litigation, because of the complexity of things, just as used to be so simple, the Public Records Act and the built-in penalties that exist for a violation of the Public Records Act. We are actually reviewing each and every public records request that comes in. So when Mike talks about the volume that comes in his department, we have that volume times 6, 7, 8, whatever that is. We're assisting, and I can't tell you, I've told you before in years past how involved we were with regards to the day-to-day running of the HR department. And with the addition of Betsy, that has dramatically decreased, but nevertheless it's still there. We interact when she can track me down, almost on a daily or weekly basis. There's the review of contracts. There's the negotiation of contracts, the drafting of contracts. I drafted my first Carnival ride contract this year. And involved with both the safety departments, and proud to be involved with both safety departments. As a result of that, and Joe wants to extend his apologies for not being able to be here to have a prior engagement, but he's requesting that the same budget be maintained from 2013 and 2014 with regards to the retainer. One of the things he wanted me to point out that with regards to that 2013 amount, that we still do more work on what is covered by that retainer, and we expect to even exceed that amount this particular year. With regards to the legal expenses amount, suggestion was that there be a cut of 3%. Joe's suggesting and approving my request to all of you and council, or even another 3%, but it would be a total 6% reduction on the legal expense. Thank you.
Thank you. Tim? Thank you, Mayor. I was a little confused this year with the budget. I usually go off of 2013 actuals to see. As you know, last year we had a record year. Our call volume surpassed 1,500 by a pretty good amount, so it was a record year. But still looking at the actuals, I know that there was a 2014 budget that was put forth and it's had 2 readings through council. I understand there is a revision out there that some changes have been made. On my part-time salaries in 2013, the actual was approximately $302,000, and it was reduced to $280,000, which would be pretty hard to be able to get to that number. Now, in the revision, if if that is successful coming through, it has been increased by Scott up to 300,000. So it will be a reduction of just over $2,000 from our 2013 actuals. Not a huge deal, but definitely a reduction. And going down to overtime, we always work very hard to keep overtime down, but when you have calls, not all the calls are spaced out. The calls come in at multiple times, so you might be handling 2 or 3 calls. We have enough staff to handle one and then have a first responder. If another call comes in, we have to call back personnel, some of them being on overtime, some of them being part-time. That was reduced from 88,000 actual in 13 to 65,000, which is a pretty healthy cut. Now, in that revision that we hope, I worked with Scott, we did bring that up to 85,000, which is about $3,000 to $4,000 less than we spent. So right now, our call volume is lower than what it was last year. I hope that stays consistent throughout the year, but I certainly can't guarantee that. Capital improvements, I don't know where we stand on that, but our capital improvements, we asked for $75,000 for our self-contained breathing apparatus. Currently, we have 27 SCBA, our breathing apparatus. 10 of them are out of service due to age. Now, these air packs were bought in 2004, so they're 10 years old, and they were bought by a federal grant. We received a federal grant to pay for our current air packs, but it being 10 years old, we have 10 of them out of service out of 27. So I believe that in that revision, there's going to be $75,000 to purchase 10 SCBA and then upgrade our turnout gear. As always, we have grants out for these. We try. We've been successful in receiving grants for a lot of stuff. Our radios, our SCBA. Last year we received some SCBA articles to hold our SCBAs inside of our trucks, so we were successful at getting that. I don't know whether we'll be successful. Obviously, if we get that money, we would give this back because we'll be getting federal dollars. But as of now, we can't wait any longer to purchase some of this equipment. So and I would just like to basically echo the line item approval of what the other department heads have said. With council missing on vacation or because of holidays falling on our Thursdays, regular council meetings, having to go back in emergency situations, work 24/7. If I can't take something from a line item and purchase fuel or purchase something else, it makes it very, very difficult to come back to council. And that is something that's brand new. We've always been able to, as long as we don't cross over our bottom line, and obviously with the finance director's approval, we've been able to do that. I've been running the budget here for 19 years now, and I've never been able not be able to do that. Of course, there has to be reasons, there has to be good reasons, but in an emergency situation, if I have a truck go down or something happens, I have to be able to